You know, years ago I worked with a guy who wasn't a great person to work with. We've all had this kind of an experience before. And he was loud, boisterous, and just not fun to get along with. But drawing on that experience, I find that you can still learn new things. You can still find silver linings. And that's really the point to bringing this up. Because from this gentleman, I learned a recipe that I've taken with me for many years. And it reminds me that no matter what the situation is, or what kind of problems you may have with other people, one of the greatest things that brings people together and unites them is good food. And with that, welcome to the kitchen. Now, looking around here, this is not a fancy kitchen. It's probably something that you might find in a standard apartment or small home. And that's kind of the point, because we are going to make something very fancy today, but I want to point out that you don't need a fancy environment or fancy tools to make something great. So what I have for you now is a nice, juicy steak, just to start off with. And helping us out today is our adorable Squish dog. Squish, say hi to the camera. Hi. Good girl. Now, when you're going for a good steak, a tenderloin is usually the best option and the most expensive, but you don't have to go that expensive. Something like a New York strip or a T-bone steak also work great. In this case, I'm using a ribeye, and I chose this cut of meat specifically because it, for one, looks so beautiful. I knew I had to have it, and I'm going to cook it up for you today. Now, I'm not going to be cutting into this just yet, but the first thing I am going to do is just scour it quite a bit. I just love the marbling in here. And this is going to help us get some of the marinade into this piece of meat. I'll do this on both sides. And just raking it across. It's fine because we're going to cut this into strips later on. And you'll see why in a minute. The next thing we need is enough soy sauce to cover and marinate the steaks, and a plastic bag. In it goes. Follow that up with about a half a tablespoon of pepper, teaspoon of garlic, and a teaspoon of onion. Powdered, of course. And we're just going to mix that up nice and stick in our cut of meat. Seal that up real good. And all the air out. And making sure that that is well covered. Now, I don't want these two pieces of meat on top of each other. I want them to be fairly evenly marinated, so I'm going to make sure that they stay separate from each other. And I'll stick this in the fridge for at least 2 hours. Overnight would be better. Now, we'll get back to that when it's done, but in the meantime, I wanted to take a moment to talk about general seasonings. I could have just used a standard steak seasoning mix. It's pre-mixed, it's ready to go. But here's the thing I don't like about that, is they tend to put extra things in this that I don't need. And if I can just get the ingredients, like the garlic and onion powders and pepper myself, then why do I need this? Because this actually doesn't have a whole lot of anything else in it than those things. So, for example, if I read the ingredients list, it says coarse salt, spices which include black pepper, red pepper, garlic, onion, sunflower oil, and natural flavors, extracts of paprika. But why do I need 2 different kinds of pepper? I definitely don't want sunflower oil. That's a byproduct, a garbage product that they put in all kinds of stuff, and it's just not necessary. So rather than put in a bunch of extra garbage into my seasonings, I'm going to use just what I need. And hopefully in that practice, you'll realize your food will actually be better off. Now, most people also make sure they put plenty of salt on their seasoning, especially with steak. In this case, we don't need any extra salt because soy sauce already is very salty. So make sure you don't add any salt to this recipe. And the time has come to place this on the burner. Now, We're going to cook this about 5 minutes on each side on medium-high heat. So you want to put a timer on that, and we'll get this going. That looks amazing. Now I've greased the pan, and we know it's ready at medium-high heat when the oil in the pan, in this case I've used butter, is nice and brown. Now probably the most important thing is that once it's on the heat, we don't touch it. You don't need to mess with it at all. Just let it do its thing. Let's have a look. Very nice. And this is ready to be transferred off of the heat. My tongs. Onto a plate. Now, as I mentioned, we're going to cut this up, but we can't do that right now. We need to let it sit for about 10 minutes. So we'll cover it with some foil. Let those juices set up. In the meantime, we can get the rest of our ingredients ready. Now, once you've prepared all your extra ingredients, you should still have plenty of time to do a quick cleanup of your workstation. It's a good practice to be in to clean as you go. That way there's less to do later on. Now, we've got a few different ingredients here. We have some green onions, some freshly shredded cheddar cheese. Now this is significant because if you buy the pre-shredded stuff, it's going to have a different texture. They package it with wood pulp, which keeps it dry and makes it last longer. So the fresh stuff is going to melt more easily, and it's going to have a different flavor, a stronger flavor, and that's what we want for this. We also have some blue cheese. Now, I know some of you out there don't like blue cheese, but stay with me on this. I think you're going to really like this. You'll need to give it a try, though. Now, baby spinach leaves, fresh, clean, and ready for plating. Let's go back to our steak real quick. They should be well set up, the juices nice and evenly distributed back out through the meat. And I'm going to go ahead and cut these into strips. Cover that last one up again. And I'm going to cut this against the grain. We'll be right back with that. Okay. Now here's where the magic takes place. You thought we were just preparing a standard steak, and you may not even have liked the way I did it, but let me show you what we do next. We're going to plate this with the strips once you've got them cut to a suitable place or where you like them. We're going to arrange these in the center of the plate. And look at the juiciness there and the redness of that middle. These are beautiful. Just where we want it to be. I'm just going to take a few of these and arrange them in the center of the plate. I'll put a few more on there. Enough to make a meal out of it. Now we get to decorate a little bit. I'm going to take some of the baby spinach leaves and arrange this in a circle or a halo around. That's quite a big one. A few more here just to round it out with a nice balanced look. Finally, we take our green onions and we're going to sprinkle a few of those around. Yeah, get a nice amount of flavor with it. A little bit of our shredded cheese. Lastly, carefully, we take our blue cheese and that's going to go around the outer rim of our plate. It doesn't take much, but the whole reason we're using these specific ingredients is because the flavor palette of this goes so well together. Panning up. And voila! We have a masterpiece plate. This is going to taste so good, and it's going to make your taste buds dance and sing. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I would love to hear your comments about this. If you try it, definitely let me know. In the meantime, stay healthy, stay active, and I'll see you next time.